Hey everybody, good morning. We're going to get into capturing and processing a mosaic, and I've been working on the Cygnus loop. So stick around. We're going to take a look at capture setup, we're going to take a look at stacking setup, and then we'll take a look at processing in PixInsight the Veil Nebula complex in a 9-panel mosaic. My name is Doug, and this is AstroAF. All right, hey, good morning. It is pretty bright and early here. I've been working on the Cygnus loop, which is a gigantic stellar remnant of a supernova that's about, I don't know, 1,470 light years away. It's supermassive, and I've been working on a mosaic, and it is 9 panels, and I have spent just 8 hours on the entire project because of, you can see behind me here, I've got a new setup, and this is a homemade, what I call Hyper AF, and it's my DIY fast star, and I have information about that over on my members area in my Discord, and a members video on my members channel. So if you would like information about that, then consider joining and supporting my channel. I'll be talking about it a little bit, but the details of how I put it together and everything are available over there. We're starting to do our automated flats here, and that won't take long. But what I wanted to do today is show you my setup on how I'm going to process the 9-panel mosaic, and I wanted to just get into how to stack that in PixInsight. So we will be checking that out, and I'll go into some of the processing steps, how I'm going to put that together and create my final image in PixInsight. So anyway, it's been an interesting project. The setup, I think that's where all the time was in this project, was in setup of the capturing, and I'm going to show you that in NINA, and I'll take a look at my, we'll take a look at the framing assistant and how I set up the panels, and I'll show you my advanced sequence and the setup of the panels for capturing, and then we'll head over and I'll take a look at in the weighted batch pre-processing setup for PixInsight. I have some tips that I want to show you on that. Basically what I ended up with is being able to stack all 9 panels and organize them and group them by panel in a single stack, and it was very convenient, and didn't take any longer than any regular project that I work on. So anyway, it's really all set up. Let's get into it. So it's a beautiful morning, and I've decided to hang out on the back porch, but it is pretty chilly. So I'm going to do some processing next to the fire, and just enjoy this morning coffee. Okay, so I'm going to head over to NINA first, and I need to get a couple things set up. So give me just a minute, and then we'll have a look at a framing assistant and how I set up the 9-panel mosaic for acquisition. And we'll take a quick look at my advanced sequence. Not going to do a deep dive into the advanced sequence. I'll show you around. I do have a video on advanced sequence setups, and I'll link that up. So anyway, let's go ahead and head over to NINA here. All right, so over here in NINA, I'm in the framing assistant, and I am on target. I've pulled up the Veil Nebula and the Cygnus Loop complex here, and I've roughly centered on the target just because I'm looking to capture this entire target here in a 9-panel mosaic. And so I'll start over here on my targets after I load the image, and I'll increase my horizontal panels till I get the target completely in view. And I'm trying to get this lower area here included. So anyway, that took 3 panels to do that. And then on the vertical panels, I do the same thing. Now I could probably get away with this, but I wanted to have some space available. So I went ahead and went with 9, and that just gives me lots of room. I can always crop, and then I just sort of get things lined up and framed the way that I want. And then the other important thing is the panel overlap. Now this will default to 20, and that gets pretty tight. 20 is a good place to be though. It's very safe. 10% is the minimum amount recommended. And I run 15%, and this seems to be a happy medium. I don't waste a bunch of space, and it gives me the overlap that I need if I have any stacking artifacts or anything in a panel that I need to make sure that I have enough room for to adequately join all these panels up in the mosaic. So 15 works really good for me. Yeah, do whatever you're comfortable with, and 20 is the safest, generally, what you'll find in documentation and stuff like that. But 10 is also documented as the minimum. At this point, that's all there is to getting set up in your framing assistant. And then you should, I think, determine your rotation from your camera. Mine's already determined, and it's at about 86.5 degrees, and that's the actual physical rotation of my camera on this target. And you'll want to determine that and make sure that your rotation is set up on the framing that you want. So do the determine rotation from camera once you get this all set up. And then once you're good on that, then you can go ahead and add to sequence. Now, you need to go over to the sequencer and add a sequence, or you can just add it to a template or however you have it set up. When I added mine, I added it to my template, and I ended up getting my 9 panels in here in my instruction set. So everything else is pretty much the same as my normal sequence template. I have my startup, and down at the bottom, I have my flats automated, and then my shutdown part. And so the only differences really are here in the imaging instruction set and with these panels. And what I did is I moved a couple things out, because normally I'd have like AF after HFR increase might be inside my actual imaging set. I moved that out. So these triggers govern all of the panels. And so meridian flip and failures, notifications for me. And then I have set up my loop conditions. This is going to control how long we're going to loop all the way into astronomical dawn. We're going to continue to loop while the altitude is above the horizon, which in my case is my custom horizon. So you can see along here in my target, this is my obstructions and house and trees and things like that around me. I've created a custom horizon file. And if I hit either one of these before the other, so if I hit a tree or something like that before astronomical dawn, it'll go ahead and interrupt the sequence and go ahead and stop. And then, going down into this is just my setup. I have this unpark and set tracking and cool camera here, because if I get interrupted for some reason, like unsafe condition or something, clouds roll in, then I want to make sure that these are turned back on before we start trying to image again. And then it's just the imaging, 21 exposures here. I had a total of 28 because I had 2 nights on here. My first night I was doing all this setup and I got a late start, so I only got 7 images per panel. I wanted to get 28, so I added another night and did 21 on that. So I had 6 hours approximately in this night, and I had 2 hours of imaging the night before. And just lights and my gain and offset time, I was using my HA03 dual narrowband filter, and I did there every 5 exposures. And that is pretty much the same for every panel. So from there, we'll go over and take a look at my file directory organization, because that's really where it's at for being set up for stacking all of your panels. So we'll head over there. All right, so I'm in my PixInsight project, but before we actually get into PixInsight, I want to show you the file organization here. So I've got my main project, which is the Veil Mosaic, and within it, I have all my project setups and my processing and stuff, because I have already processed this, but I want to go through the steps that I did for processing. But the very first thing, before any of these other things existed, I had my bias and my darks, and I had the Veil Nebula directories that are shown here. Okay, so those three. These are my bias files. These are my darks. I just took them recently, so I hadn't created masters yet. I have masters now as part of this processing, so I'll probably pull those out and use the master bias and the master darks. So within the Veil Nebula project, so this is what came down from my acquisition session. Each one of my panels came in via the sequence that we just took a look at. And I had 2 nights, and I've got 2 nights on each one of these, okay? And I've got 7 images on the first night for each panel, and I've got 21 images. These all are basically the same, and this is how they're organized. Now, what's interesting here is, so I also have my flats are organized out in by date, and notice that I've prefixed the folder name here with flat underscore and then the date. And then here on the Veil Nebula panel, I've made it panel underscore 1, panel underscore 2, etc. Okay, and that's important. That's going to be how we manage to do the grouping on these in the weighted batch pre-processing. There's more than one way to get at this. This is the way that I found made sense to me to get the groupings that I wanted, but it was basically to make sure that I had everything organized into their date. And then I had grouping keywords like panel 1 and flat created with the associated dates, so I can match up these flats for 10.5 to the subframes for 10.5, and these flats for 10.6 to the subframes for 10.6, okay? And I do that through these grouping keywords. All right, so let's take a look over in PixInsight then on what this looks like in weighted batch pre-processing. Here we are in weighted batch pre-processing, and I have my biases loaded. Basically what I did is I went through and did directory on this, and then I came back through and made sure that the biases and the darks were all loaded. And if you'll notice, you know, everything is in one group, which is the way that I wanted it, because these are basically would be masters otherwise. Now flats, if we take a look, we'll see that we've got 2 nights of flats, 10-7, or yeah, because it was the morning of the 7th and the 6th, which is the way that I want it. And the reason that I'm getting that is if we look over here underneath the grouping keywords, I'm using the flat keyword for my pre-processing. Okay, and if I were to turn this off, then I only have one grouping for flats, and so it's not going to be setting these up so that flats from the 6th are associated with flats with lights from the 6th, and so I want that. So I want to turn on the pre-processing flag here for the flat so that I do get this grouping, which is correct for the way that I want to do this. Now I need to do the same thing for lights. For the setup that I have here, you can see everything is grouped the way that I want it. All right, and that's what we want. If I didn't have the setup, and let's say I just only, if I had nothing set up on that, then I have no grouping at all. All right, that's all just thrown together, and that is not what I want. What I want to end up with is groupings of individual panels so that I get 9 separate masters created for me when I'm done here, so I don't have to do this 9 times. So if I select for the panel keyword for pre-processing, now this starts looking like what I want it to look like, all right? But it's not quite right yet. If I go over to post-calibration here, I am not getting this stacked the way that I want. This is stacking all of them together. I need to apply this grouping keyword to post as well. So now I get all of my frames grouped together in their panels the way that I want. So I'm going to have 9 individual master files for the 9 panels. And I can go through and check and make sure this all looks good. So as far as my settings are concerned, if I look at lights, my integration parameters on this, I went in, I didn't change anything here on integration. My solver parameters, I had to make sure that the solver was correct for the ascension and declination, and the date was correct. very important, and double check the focal distance and pixel size, okay? And that all needs to be correct. If it's not correct, you need to update that here. And then I don't think I did anything in registration parameters. No, I just left that as default. And then in calibration, if I select an image, I did apply automatic color correction. And for these are CFA images, this was automatically selected. I didn't add anything other than automatic pedestal settings, okay? And dark and flat were automatic for me. And if I look at flats, it's the same thing. In post calibration, and I select one, I enabled drizzle with a one-time scale on this, and I did not enable fast integration. I just let it do its regular thing. And then debayer was combined RGB. That's what I wanted in the end. The only other thing that I needed to do is choose my output directory here, which I have created a process directory, and that is where all of my stacked files are going to be output to. And then from that point, I just click the run button. And then from there, I got the following. So those went into my master directory here. And I had the drizzle and auto crop here. Okay, so I went and chose each one of these. These have a WCS on the end of them right now. Before they did not. So I just had the auto crop. So this would be the ones that I chose at first. The WCS came in following one of the next steps, which we'll get into here in just a second. But at this point, I had all of my master files. So I had each one of my panels. And as you can see, I've got panel 1, and then panel 2, panel 3. So these are each one of the masters. Okay, and we can kind of look at those. So this is each one of the panels. The WCS is after I did a plate solving on it, which I'll get into in the next step here. So these are each one of my 9 panels. So next, let's step into, there's 3 steps. This is well documented in videos on YouTube, so I won't get deep into it. I will show you the 3 steps real quick to set up your mosaic. All right, so this next section, it deserves attribution, and I want to thank Antoine and Dahlia for their blog post on creating mosaics in 3 easy steps. I have a link for that down in the description, and I'll pop it up on the screen here. And anyway, it couldn't be more simple. And so we'll run through it here real quick, and I'll show you how to put a mosaic together. So obviously the first things that are required are that you get your integration and stacking, debayering for OSC taken care of in advance. And then the first thing that you're going to want to do in PixInsight is to plate solve the images that you have created your master files from the stacking process. And to do that, we'll use the image solver. I'll search for image solver and pull up the image solver. And then this already has my master files loaded. I did that through choosing the list of files option here, and then selecting add files and navigating to my masters that I had just completed stacking. So once I have my list of files in here for each one of my panels, I have an output file suffix that I've added here. You can make this whatever you want. WCS or underscore WCS is the default. And then I need to make sure that this is correct here. I went back over and double checked in my plate solving of the framing assistant, and to make sure that this was on par with what I had there, I had to make sure that the date and time were correct. And again, that my image scale and pixel size are correct here. This will probably auto-populate for you. And in fact, I think it did auto-populate. I just went and validated that. So just double check that this is correct. If it's not correct, you need to update it to make sure that it is correct. I did kind of question as to, since I have 9 panels, which one of these RA and deck should I choose? And I thought that probably I would choose my most center panel and apply that here, which would probably work because I'm looking at the center of the complex. So anyway, I left all of this as default here, change any advanced parameters, and then I clicked on OK. So at that point, I had all of my WCS files created. So the next thing that needs to be done is to set up the placement of each one of the panels in the frame. And we do that with a tool called Mosaic by coordinates. We end up getting an option to choose the WCS files that we just created. So these have to be plate solved first because we need the coordinates, okay? And then I left all else alone other than I chose my output directory that I wanted these files to go to and the output file suffix, which in my case, I have as underscore registered. This may default to underscore RA, but you can make it whatever you want. And if you're redoing this, you can choose overwrite existing files to redo it, because it may be that you end up not being happy with the files for some reason. But yeah, anyway, you can overwrite. And then here, I just clicked OK. Then the next and final step of this 3 easy step process is to actually merge all of these together using the gradient merge mosaic tool. And on this, it's kind of the same thing. You'll choose each one of your registered, in this case now. So after I did that last step, I have the underscore WCS file, which was the image solved. And then I had the underscore registered appended to that, which was in our last step for the mosaic for placing the images. And so I add these files here with the WCS underscore registered. Then I left these parameters alone. This is one of the areas where if you aren't happy with what you actually get when you're done, then you can start adjusting these parameters. I don't have any set recommendations as far as that. You would just kind of have to play with these and see what you get at that point, and you click on apply, and that will create your gradient merge mosaic image. And what I ended up with at that point is this. So this is my 9-panel mosaic merged into a single image. And from here, I basically just begin processing. And so I wanted to walk through my processing steps and colorization, because this is an HOO image, and I currently have a single image that's an RGB. And so I wanted to talk to you about how I set this up, how I get it aligned, how I get this oriented the way that I want, and go ahead and do some extraction and so forth. I'll go through some processing steps next. So before I move forward with the processing stuff, I need to go back a couple steps. After I did the image solving and got my WCS images, which I have over here on the bottom left, I found it best for my data to go ahead and run a background extraction at this point. So this data here, this image is already background extracted. I can undo that, and not much difference. But what I found was that I had a lot better mosaic image when I was done, with less artifacts of the panels in it, if I did a background extraction on each one of the panel images before I did the merge mosaic. Okay, it wasn't necessarily evident at the point where I created the merge mosaic, but later in my process, when I removed stars, I was really able to start discerning some panels out of the background. And when I went back and reprocessed it and did a background extraction on each one of these individually prior to doing the merge mosaic, I got a lot better result that I was much more happy with. I don't know if that's always needed, but in the case of my data, that worked the best for me. Now, moving forward, the next step for me is to crop the image. And I created a crop. And as you can see it here, I've got the crop. You can rotate here. If you hold your cursor out to the side, you'll get the little rotation. And then I cropped and resized and rotated my crop here to fit this mosaic the way that I wanted. And I went ahead, there's a little bit of an artifact that I saw along the edge over here. And so I just got the crop the way that I wanted it there. And when I was done cropping, I ended up with this mosaic crop image. So on this image, after I cropped it, I did a name change and I changed this to mosaic crop. And then I did a background extraction on this where I applied a background neutralization. And then I did a background extraction. I think I used SETI Astro's automatic DBE on this. And then did star exterminator and remove the stars. And then this pixel math here, I did some image cleanup here. There's a couple little stars that were remaining in the image. And on this, I used another SETI Astro blemish blaster, which works awesome. So this tool right here basically just allows you to go in and do some cleanup and get rid of any blemishes in your image. I like to go in and if there's any little star artifacts following star exterminator, then I like to clean those up because it does a nice job for making sure that stars are nice and tight. So anyway, this is my result then after that crop. The next thing that I needed to do, this is an HOO image because I used my dual narrowband. And so I've got this RGB here and I wanted to extract that into RGB images. All right, so now I need to give attribution again to Sasha over at View into Space on his YouTube channel. He had a great video on channel extraction and channel combination that I use to help me with this because what I have is HOO data in an RGB file and I needed to get that separated into its channels. So I thought I'd show you how to do that real quick. And thank you to Sasha for the video that kind of helped me put that together. So what I had is the mosaic crop, and I have gone through and I've done some pre-processing on this to clean it up and so forth. And really what I want to do is get this into separate RGB channels. So if I go to channel extraction and I just leave this set, same format, everything, RGB, and I can just go ahead and drag that on there. This is going to create 3 new files for me. So I've got my crop B, my crop G, and my crop R. So these are my RGB files. I'm going to leave them that name for right now because I already have some RGB down here. And if we want, we can go ahead and put a screen transfer function on these so we can have a look at them. And so basically what we want to do here is I've got my red file is just that. This is my HA data. All right. So at this point, I can just name this mosaic crop HA. I would normally name it HA, but I think I already have an HA over here. That is my new HA file. And I can just offload that to the side. And so I'm done with this RGB mosaic crop, get it cleaned up and clean up the screen a little bit. And so now I have my green and my blue. And with these two, I'm going to create my O3 image. And so I'll bring up Pixel Math. And this is very simple. Actually, I'm going to go into Expression Editor for this so I can select my names here. But I want to start with open parentheses. And then I want my mosaic crop B. And I want to divide it by 2. And I want to add that to, in parentheses, my green file divided by 2. So basically, we're just getting 50% of each and combining them together. All right. And then I want to create a new image. I'll give that an image ID of O3 demo. And we're going to put that into the same, because it's not color yet. It's still going to be running mono. So it's going to be the same as the target. Then I can just go ahead and apply that. And so this creates my new O3 image. And then I'm going to work with moving forward. So we can move those up. So these are our demo stack of images right here. But at this point, I can start on colorization of these images. And I wanted to show you the colorization technique that I'm using. So this is my final image. It's my combined HOO. I went through this colorization process, which again is going to need further attribution. All right, so more attribution, because we stand on the shoulders of others, don't we? I want to thank Steve over at Entering into Space for his colorized HOO video. And he's got another one on SHO as well. And I really like this technique. It takes some practice. I kind of wanted to walk through that and show you my interpretation of it, which I think is pretty much accurate to what Steve was showing. And anyway, great videos. I'll throw up a link up here on that. And again, thank you, Steve. That was great information. It was a lot of fun to try and figure it out and work through it and play around. And I'm really happy with the results I'm getting from it. So thank you very much. All right, so I want to start with the HA, the hydrogen alpha image. I'm just going to do the hydrogen alpha because the process on the hydrogen alpha is the same as the process on the O3. It's just that you're working with blue data on the O3 as opposed to the red data with the hydrogen alpha. And the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and do a histogram transformation. I'll open up histogram transformation and we'll go ahead and link it and open up a preview. I'm on RGBK and I want to go ahead and start lifting this. Now the thing about histogram transformation is this is where you can really overdo your image. You really don't want to go for it here at this point. We just want to start bringing it out of the background because we have plenty of opportunities to pull this up. We can even come back into histogram transformation later down the line in our processing workflow and bring this up more if we would like. But I'm just about there right now. I mean, that's probably, I'm going to go ahead and apply that and look at it just once more. But I think I'm just about where I want to be. So just, yeah, I see that background starting to come up there. I don't want that. And I'm just going to pull that down. And I think that's probably good enough. That's where I want this. So I'm going to go ahead and apply it. And we'll go ahead and close the tool and close the preview. Okay, now I'm going to come over and I'm going to do curves transformation on this. And I'll select RGBK. And we'll give ourselves a preview. Now I'm just going to take a look and see where our black point is here. If you notice in this area, when I click, I get kind of a indication over here as to where that is. All right, and then right above that, I'm going to lift that up just a little bit. You see how we can start pulling that up after the histogram transformation? And then I'm also going to come up a little higher and we'll just lift that just a little bit. Now I just want to be careful not to like blow the white out right here because that's basically clipping it. I just want to give it some highlights and that's really all I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and apply that and reset. And I'm just going to look at this one more time. If we just want like let's lock that bottom in. Let's maybe just a high lift here, maybe a little higher. And we'll just pull up those highlights a little bit. All right, I like it. Going to go ahead and close the tool and close the preview. All right, so that's where we're working with right now. So the next step in this process is we want to convert this image to an RGB, and we can do that in the color space conversion and convert to RGB color. And just click on that, and it is now an RGB color space image. So now the next step is we're going to work with the color. We're going to make our HA red, and I want to control what we're applying color to. And so that means we're going to go ahead and apply a mask to it. And this is a really cool trick using the ACDNR. If I go ahead and choose preview, and then we'll open up a preview, we can see that we're getting our lightness mask. So what we want to do is start messing with the mid-tones here first. We can sort of maybe pull those down just a little bit, and we want to see how we're getting this HA signal starting to pop through right here. Anything in black is going to receive color, and anything in white is not going to receive color. It's going to be black space. So we might pull this down. So I don't see anything there that I really like. I'm going to maybe leave that about right in that area.
And then maybe push that down. Now in the shadows, if we pull this up, we're going to start getting a little separation. And that looks pretty good right there. Maybe just a hair. And then you can kind of go back and just tweak the other two and just sort of massage that until you get what you think looks good. We don't want to like get too black in the background. We want to separate that background from our hydrogen alpha. But we want to bring out those details, and I can see them pretty good there. I like what I'm seeing. And we can just keep kind of messing with that. Okay, that I think right there looks pretty good. So now I'm not going to apply this. What we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close the preview. And now I'm going to make a clone of my HA. And I'm going to apply the ACDNR to my clone. And my clone is now going to be my mask. Okay, so what I like to do now is I like to smooth this out a little bit. So I'm going to use convolution for this. And this is going to remove a little bit of graininess I see here, might be some noise, and smooth out the transitions. And so I'm just going to come up here to the very top bar of my standard deviation. I'm going to pull that up, and like I found like 12 or 13. You can like go over. Oop, let me get on here. So you can totally go overboard on this, but here you can kind of smooth out your. So there's nothing, and if I come up to like 13, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, that's kind of where I've been. I like that right there. So, oop, 14 looks pretty good. It's nice and smooth. Actually, I might take that down just a hair. Okay, so I'm going to apply that. So we just applied that convolution to our mask. Go ahead and close the tool, close the preview, and now I'm going to apply the mask to the image, and we can minimize that. All right, so now we want to take a look at our mask. So we'll show mask. And so the mask needs to be inverted now because the red is protecting and the black is allowing color through, and we want it to be the opposite. So we're going to invert mask. So now red is protecting all the back and we're allowing color through the darker areas, which is what we want. All right. So then I'm going to go ahead and click on show mask again to hide it, just to get it out of our way. And I'm going to open up curve transformation. Okay, and now we're going to make our hydrogen alpha red. So we'll choose red, and we're going to go ahead and lift that up. And we're turning red. All right, now I'm going to pull the blue down just a little bit and get rid of some of that magenta. Okay, and then the green I'm going to pull down. That'll pop that red a little bit more. And then I'm going to, on our C component, so our C component will lift that just a little bit for some vibrance. And then I'm going to hit the B component here, and we can just mess with that. I don't know if I'll actually use it, but if we pull down, we get a little more blue. We don't want that. And if we lift up, we get a little bit of yellow. No, I don't think I'm going to use it. And then lightness, I'm going to push this up just a little bit, and we're going to get those highlights, not much. I'm going to go back to the red. I'm going to pull that up here a little bit. Kind of push the reds. Pull the green down a little bit more. And I'm going to pull the blue down a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and apply that. All right, ooh, look at that. Okay, I'm going to reset this tool. I'm going to push that red just a little bit more. All right, And I'm going to take this green and I'm going to lift it up high. And I'm going to pin it low, and I'm going to pull that down just a little bit. And that's going to give that red just a really nice pop. And if need be, we can pull that blue down a little bit more, just a tweak to make sure we don't have that purple in there. And I think that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to go with that. And we can close the tool, close the preview, and we can remove the mask. Okay, so at this point, I've already done the O3, and I did it the same way. I just worked with the blues, and I came up with this result. So what I want to do now is use a little bit of pixel math, and I have one made up here, and this is an HOO, and I got this from Steve's channel, so thank you, Steve. But we'll take a look at it here. We've got our red is our HA, and our blue is our O3, as we'd expect. I need to change the file name here because I made a new HA. That's HA demo. So let me go into Expression Editor, and we'll change that to HA demo. And then blue is our O3. And then green is our little bit of pixel math where we're going to be doing some blending of the red and the blue together for our green. Because remember, this is a dual narrowband, so we had HaO3. So our green is combined between the HA and the O3. So here I want to use the HA demo, and we multiply that times 0.02, so 2% of our red, and then we're going to add that to our O3 times basically this is the inverse of 0.01. And so it's open parenthesis, your HA times 0.02, close parenthesis, plus open parenthesis, your O3 times tilde dot 0.01, close parenthesis, and that's your expression. Click OK. And then we want to come down here. We want to create a new image. We want to name that image. I'll name this HOO demo for this. We want it to be RGB, and we can go ahead and apply. And boom, we have got our HOO colorized from dual narrowband image of our 9-panel mosaic of the Veil Nebula. And I think that looks really good. So now all you got to do is work with your stars. You can just basically use pixel math where you join your stars back with your HOO image. That's really just a simple expression, and you're good to go. So my final image, I'll pop that up here in just a second. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. I really like that. I want to thank everybody again, the guys and their channels that provide this information out to our community to help others, and certainly help me. And like I said, we stand on the shoulders of others, and we learn and share. And hopefully the stuff that I've shared here today, while some of it's regurgitation from other people, that's the way that it goes. And I have a little bit of my own input on it, and I hope anyway that you enjoyed this video and you found it as a resource that helps you in your capturing and processing of astrophotography. So anyway, thank you very much. Hey, if you like this and you'd like to support this channel, subscribing, giving it a like, that goes a long way. So thank you if you would do that. And I have some links down below that are affiliate links. If you're thinking about buying something from Amazon or Gina, then if you use one of those links, I get a small commission, and it's at no additional cost to you. Love to have you as a channel member. I have pre-release videos and images and other member perks that you can check out over on the join button. And I also have merch if you want to grab a sticker or coffee cup or whatever. I have those, and those just basically that's helping support my channel and giving you something back for contribution. So if any of those appeal to you and you want to support the channel, I really would appreciate it. So thank you very much. My name is Doug, and this is AstroAF, and here's my final image of the 9-panel mosaic of Cygnus Loop.